is fantastic. This is GT racing right now.
He's got traction, he's got with the outside, both of them! Maloney!
Oh, he's taken Anderson! Anderson's up to
Oh my God!
Oh.
Big crash! Oh my goodness, half the field's gonna get rolled!
Second very close. These guys are want to make their way through the field very quickly. Oh, here we go! Oh no! That's massive! This is it! This is over! I can't believe this! Oh my God!
God, what?
We've reached an exciting point of the championship in OZICAR Formula V. We are at Imola tonight for round number 4. Host of a little bit of Grand Prix action in recent years, so it is awesome to have it in this European vacation season of OZICAR Formula V season number 2. Regular format before us this evening, a 15-minute race and a 30-minute race. Right now, our drivers are qualifying to set the grid for that race number 1. So let's talk about this circuit then. Imola, it's written in front of me. Autodromo Enzo Edino Ferrari. And what an interesting track with some elevation it is. I'm David Haynes, joined by Brad Wingard. Brad, I'm very excited to have V's at this circuit.
Yeah, I am very excited. As I've made very public, I'm a massive fan of this track, and this is great in supercars that we saw at the 500 on the weekend, Formula 3, Formula 1, GT3, TCR. So to have the V's here that are so tight and compact on a track that is very well known for being a very heavy drafting pack down that main straight, tonight's racing is going to be fantastic.
Quite a few corners that might be braking zones in some other cars are near enough to flat out for these Formula Vs. So past the first apex of Tamburello, it's power down, a lot of speed on the way into Villeneuve, and then uphill through Tosa, and the exit makes it so critical to carry good speed through there in these Formula Vs. Carrying momentum is absolutely key with the amount of power they do or don't have, depending on how you look at it. And then there's some other great corners around here, including bouncing across that curb at Variante Alta. This is the championship standings after 3 rounds. Jesus leading the championship, but I think that lead has come down just a little bit. Ryan Howe, Michael Skurlock, defending champ Cam Dance, 1 point behind Skurlock, and Simon Clayson tied with him for 4th as well. We've got Lee Partridge, Nathan Verney, Chaz Mostert, Kirk Broadhurst, and Dennis Hancock in the mix. And Chaz Mostert, fresh off a clean sweep last round. My goodness, he could end up in the top 5 very, very quickly, as we only have 2 rounds after tonight left in the championship. We're exactly at the halfway point before the start of tonight's action. Chaz Mostert, like I said, clean sweep a week ago. He's on the pole for race number 1, sharing the front row with the championship leader, Joseph De Jesus, alongside him in 2nd. So that's going to be interesting to watch. Then, defending champ Cam Dance in 3rd, another supercars driver in 4th. Then Lee Partridge and Michael Skurlock for row 3. That is an interesting grid so far, and it's a big grid that we've got, because it continues with Ryan Jones, Reese Gardner, some fireworks between them in previous rounds. They share row 4. We've got Ryan Howe and Daniel Hederscheid, then Chris Noble and Nathan Verney in 11th and 12th.
Ray Oliver and Josh Burton starting off of row 7, with Aaron Fiend and Mikey Harland behind them. Aaron Guintini and Sean McKenzie starting from row 9. Simon Clayson, Max Donnelly, Sean Doyle, Kirk Broadhurst, and Rick Berger next to Matthew Guintini round out and start the next rows of 10.
Exactly. So then in 25th, we've got Stafford Marsland, and it follows on Jeremy Bush, Theo Taylor, Stuart Crawford, Vic Bent Veltzen, Callum Heinrich. And after that, Stephen Black, Matthew Harriet, Mick Taylor, Ira Felberg, the last driver with a qualifying time. Some others who might still take to the grid, but at the very back, Leon Williams, Philip Howe, Paul Ward, and Matthew Joy. Another 30-plus Formula Vs for a big grid with some really, really talented drivers up front. Chaz Mostert on the pole, with the championship leader in second, the defending champ in third, and then another active supercars driver in fourth. And like you can see, a massive grid, green lights come on, they all pull away from the start. We have a long run. I say all of them, except one of them hasn't, and that is going to cause an incident right in the back of the field. Tires spraying everywhere, but it's no effect for the top 20 as they have their run down towards Tamburello. 3-4 cars maybe with wheels off their wagon. It's cold tires, cold brakes as they come into Tamburello for the very first time. Chaz Mostert still at the lead. De Jesus right behind him. Cam Dance, Jake Kostecki look on. But here's some almost 3 wide action as they come towards the Villeneuve chicane. Nearly flat out on the way in here, I think, but you want to be on a good line to then carry speed up the hill, and there's drivers spinning around as well. Several of them into the gravel on the exit of Villeneuve.
Oh god, we're only 3 corners in and there's so much to catch up on. That was Daniel Hedderscheid, and I think that was Ryan Jones. You see more contact at Tosa now as well. Are we in 2004 or something? It's Michael Schumacher versus Juan Pablo Montoya all over again, but with even more contact and cars running wide at Pirotella. Not usually the optimal line, but in momentum-based cars like these, take every inch that you can get.
Well, here's Cam Dance. He's still holding on to third, but he's clipped a huge amount of curb there. Car gets all out of sorts, and there ought to be a slowdown penalty there as well. So here comes Jake Kostecki, Michael Skurlock, Lee Partridge to take positions away from him. A costly mistake early to pick up a slowdown there for Cam Dance, and it's letting the top 2 run away with it. Chaz Mostert still holds on to the lead, converting that pole position, but De Jesus is right with him. 3 wide in Variante Ultra, and of course, it's not going to work. Joshua Burton in the middle of that, trying to keep going here. Aaron Quintini was all the way around the outside. Now they're almost looking 4 wide. They're then going to come down the hill at high speed in towards the final 2 corners. 38 Formula Vs is always going to give you action. 10 Formula Vs can give you some action. This is a big grid and some talent all mixed through.
Yeah, you're exactly right. I think everything that we love about a track such as Imola is just, it's amplified when the cars are as small as they are here. As we see a pass for the lead, Joseph Jesus, getting past Chaz Mostert on the inside of turn 1. He should hold that through Tamburello. It's not a massive braking zone in these cars, like you said. It's only dropping 40 k's an hour. That's how much momentum they carry and how little they need to brake. But get the move done. But just because he's leading at the start of this lap doesn't mean he's going to be leading later. And you see 2 wide further back for what are they? The mid-team positions. That's Mikey Harland on screen now with Josh Burton, Simon Clayson in front of him. And starting to form a little bit more single file now, but I don't know how long that'll go, because this is part of the start of the twisty part of the lap, and you don't really stay single file for too long after that.
Yeah, and you have this big uphill out of Tosa as well that accentuates the slipstream. We've had Mikey Harland get spun around at Tosa. I'm not sure who he was side by side with, but he was in the middle of that pack you were talking about. Aaron Freund in 10th was leading 8, 9, maybe even more cars. And that's going to be Reese Gardner there in 8, looking at Dance, Partridge, and Skurlock going from back to front in this pack of 4 as they come uphill. Jesus in the lead, Chaz Mostert in 2nd, and then Jake Kostecki all by his own here in 3rd place. But it looks like Skurlock's going to start catching him up.
Yeah, you say all on his own. The gap in front and behind is about a second, which is when we'll see that draft start to have an effect. And being a second behind, coming down the run to Ravazza is not a bad position to be. There's obviously absolutely minimal aero washing these cars because they don't really have any aero. So a little bit of turbulent air means you can carry more speed percentage through the corner, and this is compared to like a supercar or a GT3 car. And Michael Skurlock is already passing for position as we come onto the straight, not even waiting for the draft.
Slow, so I'm not sure quite if he got a misshift through Ravazza there, if he even had a slowdown penalty earlier. Was that across Variante Alta, or was it later on at Ravazza? But it's costing him big time from 3rd place. He's already back into 9th, maybe even further, as the lead changes once again. Mostert and De Jesus just swapping back and forth. You're always going to get that with a huge pit straight here, and the strength of the slipstream means that they just are alternating that lead and trying maybe to get away from Danson, Gardner, and Partridge and Skurlock. So this is Ray Oliver, didn't get away, and inevitably, you know, the first 5 cars miss him, but then the longer it goes on, the faster speed they're bearing down on him, the less visibility they've got of him. You just have to pucker in that moment, knowing that probably someone is going to eventually hit you if there's 10, 15 cars launching off the grid behind you. That's what happened in the field at the start.
Yeah, we've seen incidents like that at lots of tracks and lots of different series. George Russell in Formula 2 comes to mind, and that going back to that lead battle between Joseph and Chaz Mostert, we were talking about similar in the V8 Scops support series with Dane Warren and Riley Preston when they were battling for the lead. And in these cars especially, it might be a really good idea just to sit in second place until like the last lap, or like the end of the penultimate lap, start of the last lap, get that draft and just hope that you can hold on to it for the end of the race coming back up to the start line. But even that might be too much of a draft. So it's going to be really interesting to see how this battle plays out for the rest of the race, and if Joseph just sits there in second place and takes his time, or if he goes for it early and tries to defend. But even that's really difficult in these cars. So it's going to be a very interesting battle to watch indeed.
So let's watch here. They come past the chicane even. The timing line, the finish line, where the checkered flag is going to be waved, is here, quite a way down the straight. It would be possible with a good run off the final corner to maybe get ourselves another photo finish. We're going to swap around for the lead once again, halfway in this race 1 of 2, 3 laps down, 3 to go. And here is Reece Gardner from 8th on the grid. He's just gotten his way up into 3rd. Gets a lot of those anti-cut curbs though. He's still got Cam Dance right in behind him. He runs wide of the 3rd apex there as well. So 3rd place, very, very closely packed right now as well.
Yeah, very closely indeed. I don't think I'd be quite as comfortable racing that close, but of course, Reece and Cameron are both very experienced drivers. Of course, Reece has his brand new recording studio set up that we're all very excited for him. Cam Dance across the pond has just gone into lockdown, so he's had tons of time to practice his sim racing. Maybe Reece has a slowdown because he seemed to lose a lot of speed to Lee Partridge and Cameron Dance going up towards Piratella. I'm not 100% sure on that though, but he has let them through quite easily.
Track limit's not an issue at the top of the hill there. As they come down into Aqua Minerale, always a challenging corner, particularly in this car where you get off the throttle and the rear wants to step around. You've got to try to carry a little bit of the throttle through there to keep the car balanced and level. And there's a perfect line through there that you've got to hit. Good onboard view from Reece Gardner. Now the chicanes, Varianzi Alta. You get too much, but you also need to straighten up the line if you can. Just got to kiss them just right. Dance 3rd, Partridge in 4th, Reece Gardner in 5th, and it does look like your top 2 are still stretching away from them. It's all packs everywhere else to complete the top 10 or so, because Skurlock's leading a train of 4 with Jake Kostecki right behind him. And then Aaron Friend is still in 10th. Darren Gantini and Sean McKenzie behind him as a pack of 3 there. Going to be 2 to go as they cross the line now. 2 laps of a full-sized Grand Prix layout car that doesn't have full-size Grand Prix horsepower. That's why we get these packs that form up, this pack racing that we have our eye on right now for 3rd. And again, for the lead, no you, they just always seem to chop and change that one back because there's no point in defending this early with a slipstream that powerful.
No, that's exactly right, and it's almost as if we're watching chivalry play out in front of us. They're just leaving the door open for each other. They're being nice gentlemen, but obviously when that white flag comes out, that chivalry completely disappears and the gloves come off. So it's, like you said, very much not over yet, and I don't think it's going to be finished for anyone until the very end of this race, because there are micro packs all throughout this field. The biggest gap's about 2 seconds between 2 different cars. Obviously, the spread over the whole track is quite big, but between like 2 or 3 cars, it's only a couple of seconds between each pack, so it's still not over. You could gain a massive amount of positions on these last lap and a half now as they come through Piratella for the 5th time. But yeah, it's very close all round, and something about a fat lady singing. We're not quite there yet, but it's coming close and it's coming fast.
Jake Kostecki, after he got the slowdown penalty through here early on. Oh, he's had a problem once again. He's tangled with Chris Noble there as well. We're riding on board for it. I was going to say he was doing well on his recovery after the early slowdown, but another bit of a dog's breakfast there through Aqua Minerale. And look at that damage. That suspension is blown a damper or something. And Chris Noble's also already gone and thrown it away. The suspension is broken on the front left. He's put it on the tow hook, and that's going to be almost no result in race number 1 for Jake Kostecki. Unfortunate there, as we're going to come towards the white flag, riding on board with the championship leader, following in the slipstream of the, someone correct me if I'm wrong, 2015 Bathurst 1000 winner. What is that?
2014.
Oh, there you go. Well, they are going to be side by side as they come towards the white flag, and Chaz Mostert is going to get back to the lead. And Jesus is going to be thinking, do I defend this now, or do I slot in behind and try to get that last lap slipstream? And the answer is that he is going to hold the inside into Tamburello, make Chaz Mostert work for this. But he's caught a little bit too much anti-cut curb, and Mostert doesn't know if he holds the inside at the 3rd apex. He tries to. He also gets a little bit of those nasty sausage curbs, and it's still going to be side by side for the lead towards Villeneuve. In the background, look at Cameron Dance trying to break the slipstream to Reese Gardner and Lee Partridge. That is all going on for the remainder of the top 5. And Mikey Harland and one of the Guintinis tangle coming down the pit straight, and with Matthew Guintini, he is on his lid. That is going to be race done for him. Now look at Mostert also trying to break the slipstream. This is typical of what we've seen from him in this season as well. One weave, another weave there, and he's just managed to put a little bit of space between himself and DeJesus.
Not quite blocking yet, it's just breaking the draft, and obviously you'd usually see that down long straights like the Dot Daho or Mulsanne straight at Le Mans, but in any real proper sized track, a long straight is any straight in these cars, and doing it again up the run to Variante Auto, just trying to break the draft. And as long as De Jesus hits his marks, I think he'll be able to get this by the end, because he is still within, you know, a 1/3 of a second. That draft down the hill is going to be big, and the draft up the straight is going to be even bigger. So if he can get a good run down the hill and through Ravazza, this still isn't over.
One more braking zone, and Mostert still just trying to unsettle and trying to break that slipstream a little bit. And see, a little bit of work with the hands to keep the car stable for DeJesus, and he'd need to be just a little closer. He's so aggressive with how much of the curb he takes at the final apex there. Doesn't appear to be a slowdown. He's still flat out behind Mostert. The line will just probably come up in time to save Mostert. He's got the shorter run. There's the checkered flag. It's up where Barney is. And who has got it? Chaz Mostert, because there was a slowdown for DeJesus. And then Dance is going to complete the top 3. Who won the drag race between Lee Partridge and Reese Gardner?
I'm seeing...
It was Lee Partridge.
Yes, by not much.
By 200ths of a second. There's going to be another couple of finishes like that. We just saw Jones beat out Clayson's. Now we've got another one going on here. Stafford Marsland's trying to go the long way around, and it's not working for him. Get another little photo finish there.
Who else do we have to finish? We have R. Felberg. Yeah. Nope.
A lot of close finishes as Felberg just beat out Heinrich as well in their own little battle from the final corner to the timing line. Who else still hasn't finished? Almost everyone has. Down past 25th, Stephen Black across the line. So Chaz Mostert now on a winning streak of several races in Aussie Car Formula V. Just was in the right place at the right time to make DeJesus work for it, and he cut too much of the final apex, picked up a slowdown, but cleverly gave it all up before the line to hold on to second from Ken Dance in third. Then Lee Partridge, Reese Gardner, Nathan Verney, Michael Skurlock, Aaron Friend, Aaron Guintini, and Sean McKenzie. The biggest mover there, I think, was Aaron Guintini, up 8 spots. Then the next 10, Ryan Jones from his problems at Villeneuve in lap 1, back up to 11th, ahead of Clayson, Ryan House, Stuart Crawford, Joshua Burden, Vic Bentveltzen, Ira Felberg, Callum Heinrich, Stafford Marsland, and Jeremy Bush. That's the top half of the field.
Philip House starts the second lot of 20 with Paul Ward not too far behind him, just in front of Kirk Broadhurst. Very close gap between the two of them. Stephen Black, Matthew Joyce, Sean Doyle, Matthew Harriet, Max Donnelly, Mikey Harland, who we saw had a horror race, all finishing a lap down. Matthew Guintini, Jake Kostecki after his slow crash, Chris Noble finishing 2 laps down, Rick Berger, Daniel Heddershield did get home at the end, although 5 laps down. Ray Oliver, Theo Taylor, and Mick Taylor rounding out the field, all 6 laps down.
So a couple retirements, but also a really exciting battle for the lead and all through the packs here at Imola. Let's take a little break on SimSpeed TV, and when we come back, it's the 30-minute compulsory pit stop race number 2.
Travis Pastrana here. iRacing, Climb to the Clouds, Mount Washington Hill Climb, available now. Check it out.
Yeah, so we're using the VRS Direct Force Pro this year. We have a wheel adapter right here, so I'm using the rim I used last year, but the motor right here produces a lot of power, a lot of precision, and it helps me, just feel the car more, feel the car a lot quicker, especially, this week we're at Sonoma. I can feel it, when it hits the curbs, any little change in the car, the wheel reacts a lot quicker than your typical gear-driven or belt-driven wheel. For example, if you're on oval and the rear tires break loose, force feedback on it corrects a lot quicker than your typical wheels. There's no resistance pretty much as far as being able to make quick corrections on the wheel. So all that, paired with how precise the wheel itself is, it makes it to where it helps you as a driver, to find that extra hundredth or thousandths of a second. So when you're getting a direct drive wheel, especially the VRS wheel, it's heavy duty. It's got good weight to it, it's not a plastic toy. Feels like you can really beat up on it. A lot of people have issues with their plastic gear-driven wheels just kind of breaking after a couple years. This thing just feels like it can go forever. The forces are really strong where if you might have to let go of the wheel if you get into the wall. You can adjust all that with the settings on it and stuff, but the wheel itself doesn't play around. It's got way more strength than you could ever need, and that's what makes it good, that you can adjust that down to whatever the car needs. So initially you'll be able to get the controller box and the motor together, and eventually you will be able to add a rim onto that option. They'll also be including a button plate on it to put on the rim to have all sorts of different buttons and functionality. Also, pedals are coming, so that's a pretty big deal as well. Hasn't been covered too much, but the goal is to also have pedals to go along with the Direct Force Pro. So that's pretty exciting. The wheel feels good. It feels very much like a real world steering wheel. You just kind of feel like what you would imagine the car to feel like. A real steering wheel in a car is very smooth, it's very direct, very quick, and that's what this wheel feels like.
This is fantastic. This is GT Racing right now.
He's got traction, he's got rid of the outside of both of them! Maloney!
Oh, he's taken Anderson! Anderson's up top!
Oh my god! Oh! Big crash! Oh my goodness, half the field's gonna get rolled!
Six very close. These guys are want to make their way through the field very quickly. Oh, here we go. Oh no! That's massive! This is it! This is over! I can't believe this! Oh my god!
God, what?
We're back at Imola now. It's race number 2 at Autodromo Internazionale Enzo Edino Ferrari. And well, this one is going to be interesting because we've seen that the slipstream down the pit straight is very strong for these cars. But then there's plenty of good corners around Imola where you've really got to drive these Vs. Through Tamburello, through Villeneuve, through Tosa, through Acqua Minerale in particular, it seems that that is a difficult corner for these cars with the undulation and the curves and the changes of direction. Before we get race number 2 underway, it's one lap, one shot qualifying, and we have seen time and time again how much pressure this puts on the drivers to perform in one lap. There will definitely be someone without a qualifying time because a mistake is so costly when you've only got one shot.
That's exactly right, and it's not a massive lap as far as track distance goes, but with the speed of these cars, it is a very, very long lap, and you know, a misshift or a little bit slower through a corner like Tosa, and you can lose so much time going up that hill. So it's not even just getting the lap together, it's hitting those finite marks mean so much more at a track like this because it takes so long to get these cars up to speed, both up and down the hills and along that main straight. So this is going to be a very, very important qualifying session for a lot of these drivers.
Chaz Mostert started from pole in race number 1, turned it into a win. Out here, this is going to be his formation lap, out lap, preparation lap before he gets into his flying lap. And as we said, you know, a full Grand Prix size layout here, several kilometers. That should mean by the time they get to their first flying lap, the tyres are relatively well prepared. There are some shorter layouts of some shorter tracks where it's one lap is very, very difficult because of the short out lap. No such problems here at Imola. In fact, if anything, in a 5-minute session, it's almost difficult to get out there, do the formation lap, and do the flying lap in 5 minutes. It meant by about 20 seconds of the session going green, you had to be out there on your formation lap. So it's about to get very interesting in the last 2.5 minutes of this session, as every driver has just one lap to decide their grid slot for race number 2.
Yeah, I've been cycling through some of the drivers, and a lot of drivers having mistakes on their out laps. So
like Ryan Jones is facing the wrong way right now in Ravazza.
Exactly, perfect example. And I think someone's just had a slowdown at the exit of Ravazza, which is obviously the last thing that you want at the start of your qualifying lap. So probably a better thing to have it in between the two Ravazza corners than at the end of them. As we ride with Chris Noble now on the run down to Tamburello. It's massive 1.6 kilometer straight, feels like an eternity in these cars. Very, very late braking, little bit of curb through Tamburello, 1, 2, all of it through 3, flat out obviously, and a nice wide run down towards Villeneuve, maximizing every inch of space on this track because it is so wide. These cars take so long to get up to speed, and Ryan Jones, as we say that, has actually just gone off the track at Tamburello 1, so that'll be his qualifying done. He'll be starting right near the back of the grid.
Depends on how many other drivers also have problems though, because he might still be 30th of 38 or even higher if some other drivers have some problems. Pole for race number 1 was 2:13.3 or 2:13.4 in that ballpark. So if you haven't already started your flying lap, you're not going to get one. Looks like almost everyone is in this sector 1, sector 2 section of the track for their laps. Chris Noble, as you can see, already a minute into his lap as he comes down towards Acqua Minerale. You've got to be careful with bouncing across that first curb. You've got to be positioned just right to get the perfect line through the second apex and up the hill, but there is a slowdown from going too wide there. Chris Noble, no problems with that, but it's something you've got to be aware of. Now, 2 apexes, very unsafe. Alta underneath the trees. Plenty of curb at the first one, not too much at the second one, and not too wide to give this up and off track out the exit there. Don't know if this is still going to be considered a clean lap from Chris Noble because he got pretty close to a lot of that green AstroTurf. He's still going for it, but this just highlights many of the places around this lap. It's possible to make just a little mistake, overstep the mark by a centimetre, and have your lap no longer count, which is catastrophic when it's the only lap you've got. Through the last apex of Ravazza for Chris Noble, and it is just going to be flat out through the right-hand kink after pit entry towards the timing line. A bit further down here, you're going to see times start to pop up really quickly in the timing column on your left of screen. 2:15.1 for Chris Noble. Not bad. He's got a time on the board, and it counts, and that could be oh so critical. Chaz Mostert, what time is he going to put on the board?
As he approaches the line now, Joseph De Jesus, crosses with a 2:13.8, and Chaz Mostert goes quicker with a 2:13.313. So big difference between those two. Jake Kostecki's at a 13.9, and we'll run through the rest of the grid now.
Roland Dane signed to Jesus right now because he's put a 888 on the front row of the grid there. But it's once again going to be a Chaz Mostert, Joseph De Jesus front row for race number 2 in the same order. Jake Kostecki in third now in qualifying. Michael Skurlock, Lee Partridge, Nathan Verney complete the top 6. After Verney got Chris Noble. His time stands good enough for 7th. Mikey Harland, Aaron Freund, Jeremy Bush, Kirk Broadhurst, and Simon Clayson, the top 12.
Clayson's probably very happy with his finishing position. He's tied with Cam Dance, who we'll get to in a minute, so that's a big gain for him. Ray Oliver starts just behind him next to Stuart Crawford. Rick Berger, Theo Taylor behind them. Vincent Ben Zetlin on row 9. Max Donnelly next to him. Callum Heinrich, Cameron Dance, the first of the non-qualifiers. Sean Doyle, Joshua Burton, Sean McKenzie, and Reese Gardner round out row 12.
So 37 cars on the grid, only 19 of them with a qualifying time, because you still see no time for Ryan Jones, Matthew Harriott, Ira Felberg, Ryan Howe, Stafford Marsland, Matthew Guintini, Leon Williams, Aaron Guintini, Philip Howe, Mick Taylor, Paul Ward, Stephen Black, and Matthew Joy. Your big names without a qualifying time. You got to say, Cam Dance, no time. Sean Doyle, no time. Reese Gardner and Ryan Jones, both of them, no time. This is going to be an interesting race. 12 laps, compulsory tyre change, and a pretty wide open fuel window as well. So we might see some pit early. Some of those drivers right up the back we might see run late, but we are all going to see them run away down towards turn 1 now, as Chaz Mostert from pole position is going to lead them. More drivers successfully dropping the clutch in first gear and getting away in race number 2 compared to race number 1. We are going to settle in. It's definitely going to be an interesting race here, strategy-wise, and also some really quick drivers really deep in the field.
Yeah, I think with the length of this main straight, similar to Barcelona a couple of weeks ago, we see a spinner at Tamburello already.
Rick Berger had to wait for the whole field, bar 1, to come through before he could rejoin in an awkward place.
Well, you love those first lap incidents, don't you? Have to wait for the entire field to pass, completely wrecks your race, but mostly clean so far through the rest of the field as we head through Tosa. That's
problem for De Jesus, because he's dropped back pretty significantly. Mostert's back in the lead. Jake Kostecki was even going for the lead. He's up in a second. Lee Partridge, Michael Skurlock. Oh, 3 wide. Michael Skurlock looking for the inside there. Surely that's not going to happen. Aboard with De Jesus, who, good points haul, in race number 1, championship leader, does not at all want to get taken out. He could take this championship home if he just keeps finishing in the top 5.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And top 5 is a very, very good position. Anyone who's raced in any OZICAR series know how crucial every individual point is. Ryan Howe is all the way down in 28th. He's the closest person that can beat Joseph De Jesus. So being in top 5 is not bad, as we see a spinner down at the exit of
Formula
variant.
Raleigh.
That one, yes, thank you.
Still a lot of cold tyres out there, obviously, because I saw 3, 4, maybe more drivers with slowdowns between Aqua Minerale and Variante Alta. Michael Skurlock's got, doesn't look like damage, so that's going to be a pretty significant slowdown and a spin, apparently, for him as well. So the tyres still coming in, the slipstream bringing the pack back together again. There was a lot of too wide action down into Ravazza, as you can see. The downhill extends the length of the braking zone there. Chaz Mostert is getting away from them as they run 3 wide for second place. Kostecki on the right-hand side, Partridge in the middle, and Jesus trying to come around the outside of them, and Chris Noble can pick and choose like a kid in a lolly shop, because whichever way he goes, he's going to get a slipstream, as they are still going 3 wide for second place. Jesus just trying to hold on to take the inside. Kostecki's 3 wide on the outside. He's got to be careful. And all of them break a little bit earlier than Lee Partridge. The stones on that guy as he goes from the middle into second place.
Yeah, absolutely fantastic move. One of Reese's favourite sayings is last of the late breakers, and that was a perfectly well executed by Partridge there. He takes third place, sorry. Jake Kostecki just in front of him. So this train of 4 for second place is helping Chaz Mostert out so much. They can obviously form that little bit of a draft train to try and catch up to him, a bit like a NASCAR super speedway tactic. Obviously no bump drafting, but if you switch the draft every lap, you're slowly going to pull away from the cars behind. Chaz Mostert on his own has no draft, but he also has no one to accidentally crash into or be crashed into, so not a bad place to be either. It's a 1.8 second gap, between Chaz Mostert and Jake Kostecki at the head of this train, with Mikey Harland, who had an awful last race, is leading 6th place battle just behind them. So very early stages. We'll see if anyone decides to take an early pit stop, try and get out of some traffic.
I'll tell you who has is Michael Skurlock. So he was right up in the top 5, went for a spin, and then pitted right at the end of lap 1. And he's hoping he can find some clear track and settle into a rhythm that he just wasn't going to have otherwise. Other drivers who pitted early, Ryan Howe, maybe Sean McKenzie, Stafford Marsland, and some others. But there's definitely a few who are on the tow hook after lap 1 as well, though. It's hard to gauge. I think it might have just been Skurlock, Howe, and McKenzie pitted after lap 1 without going on the tow hook. This is the Harland train with Bush and Broadhurst and Clayson, and Cam Dance has come from 20th, I should say, up into 10th. Max Donnelly, more troubles. And who's he tied up with? Sean Doyle. There's still 3 drivers going through the gravel at Ravazza there.
Ryan Jones also involved with that, or nearabouts. He comes into the pits now, so he'll serve his pit stop, get any damages repaired. Probably a good time for it to happen at Ravazza compared to, say, the Turn 1 Kink or Tamburello. So maximizing a pretty awful scenario as we see a VRS replay right on the screen now.
So this is Ryan Jones and Sean Doyle, and then Max Donnelly comes out wide and makes further contact, more damage with Sean Doyle. So it didn't happen in the order that I thought there, and you can see that Donnelly and Doyle were then intertwined. This is the initial angle. Ryan Jones is down the inside for the braking zone at Ravazza, and then he's not, and then he is. And there's a bit of contact there, so that's one that's hard to read. Look at those tyres just go into a different postcode off the front left of both of those cars.
Yeah, wondering if anyone who owns the houses behind there needed some fresh rubber, because they've got some now free of charge. But we see a lot of those guys coming out of the pits now. Aaron Guintini, Ryan Jones. Who was that that just got past? I missed it. It was Stafford Marsland, who I believe pitted early. So he's back in front of Ryan Jones. Obviously, Ryan having that spin, losing a lot of time, trying to make the most of that pit stop. He will have clean air now. He's back where he started, so we'll see how his pace carries him through the rest of the race, because obviously no draft, but if you have a pace advantage over the rest of the field, it doesn't make too much of a difference.
I reckon if you were a marshal around here, you could pick up enough broken bits off race cars that you could reassemble a whole Volkswagen Bug again. You just upright here and a gearbox there, and just got to find yourself a body shell, and you got yourself a family car by the end of the race weekend. So your top 22 drivers now yet to pit, and then in 23rd is Michael Skurlock, who had that lap 1 pit stop. A pretty good pit stop it was as well. This is on board with Chris Noble in 5th. You can see 4th and 3rd and 2nd, and you can see Jake Kostecki with a head of steam coming around the outside of DeJesus. Also trying to think of how to look at Lee Partridge. But this is some long-term thinking from Chris Noble. I think so long as the 2 cars at the front of this train are going quickly, and I'm part of it, I'm also going places quickly. So he just wants Lee Partridge to stay with DeJesus, to stay with Kostecki. And this is Jesus and Kostecki going side by side once again, as Jesus was defending that one a little bit from a bit of a bumblebee of Kostecki.
I was going to make a thorn in his side joke, but that doesn't quite work with a bee. They don't have thorns, they have stingers. But anyway, they are still...
So do the Taliban.
Still lapping about 4/10 a lap slower at the front of this pack than Chaz Mostert is. So he is incrementally increasing that margin over this pack, even with the draft. Of course, they lose a little bit of time with passing and such, but with that big draft down the straight, you would think that kind of negates any slowing down from passing, but Chaz is just, he's a absolute machine of a man, so we're not exactly surprised. It doesn't take an average guy to win the Bathurst, well, probably the longest Bathurst 1000 that's ever happened. I think it was about 8 hours when he won it, and he was in the fence at some point, so he's not just some ordinary guy with a simulator, so he knows what he's doing. Something we haven't spoken about yet, as we see more cars are, well, still in the pits, I believe, because a lot of them have been wrecked out, but the length of this pit lane, it's a 34-second transition, let alone your stop, so that's a lot of time lost in the pit stop. So we see cars like Michael Skurlock, who has pitted, is coming through, out of Piratella now down towards Aqua Minerale, whereas Chaz Mostert is coming up towards the start-finish line. So it's essentially a half a lap loss. Piratella to the start line is pretty much bang on half a lap. So it's a massive loss through your pit stop. So you really, really need to get that right more than a lot of other places. We see 2 wide for 2nd place again. I don't think we're going to get time saying that anytime soon.
Is going to come through for 2nd place. Chaz Mostert wasn't quicker than them on that last lap. In fact, Kostecki managed to be 3 or 4 tenths faster.
Even quicker than that again was Cam Dance setting the fastest lap of the race last lap with a 13.494. So he's leading the train for 6th place at the moment, coming in towards the Villeneuve chicane. So he's not out of this fight yet. He still has 3.5 seconds to Chris Noble at the back of that podium battle that we were watching earlier, but he is lapping quite a bit quicker than them. So Cam Dance obviously very experienced in these sort of cars, and his pace is showing that right now. He's quicker than 2 supercar drivers on a simulator, but you still take that. He's still quickest. Doesn't matter what car or what track or what platform you're on. So this fight isn't over yet, and of course if Cam starts to catch the back of Chris Noble, so will Broadhurst and Harlan and Bush and Clayson as well, all in that paddle. So
Kostecki's done it again. The Aqua Minerale run out wide, picked up a slowdown, and he's going to have to give up a position or 2, maybe even a few here. And he waits until right at the braking zone of the corner, gives Chris Noble no option but to dive down the inside, closes it off, and contact gets made between them. And clumsy, poor way to give up the slowdown, and he's gone and cost a position to himself. And a lot of damage to Chris Noble there as well. DeJesus and Lee Partridge are going to carry on uncontested in 2nd and 3rd. Chaz Mostert gets a bit of a free kick as well.
Yeah, replay on screen now. He doesn't even just get the slowdown. He misses the exit of that curve by a lot. Like, he is a car width off of that AstroTurf, which is where the slowdown typically is. And he slows up a little bit going up the hill to let some of the cars by, but then you can brake quite late in these cars, so use that to your advantage. And so we get a nice super slow-mo now. He just cuts across the nose of Chris Noble, and very, very poor by Kostecki on that. It was probably worth just slowing up a bit earlier, letting him by, because we'll get that draft train down the straight to compensate for the time loss. But pits become a hive of activity now as we see who's that coming into the
We've
pits.
got Stuart Crawford, Ray Oliver, Callum Heinrich, Matthew Harriet on the lane at the moment because he's lap 6 of 12, so 1 lap away from the halfway point. So that's sometimes a popular time to come in and do the tyre change, particularly once some other drivers around you have pitted it. It sort of opens up the window where you can pit and not be in too much traffic. So we're looking at Partridge and DeJesus as they continue on in second and third. Cam Dance has snuck his way up into fourth. From no qualifying time, he's up here into fourth, eating more time away from second and third, yet to pit. And the only driver I think who was only drivers who were really in front of Cam Dance, pit stop wise, was Skurlock and maybe Stuart Crawford, who would still have considered to have undercut Cam Dance. So he's looking pretty good, working his way through the field in this one, helped by the higher speed nature of this circuit compared to, say, Alton Park. As Reece Gardner taking the Crayon off-roading a little bit on the exit of Villeneuve wasn't going to help him in the battle that he was having. His second and third, are they working together or are they fighting each other?
A little bit of both, I think, but you were talking about Stuart Crawford and he's just looped it at Tosa, so he's let Reece Gardner and Reece Gardner and Ryan Howe through. So Ryan Howe yet to pit according to my timing. I could be wrong there.
You're wrong.
No, he did pit early, sorry. So yeah, they are both where they should be on track. They are currently 18th and 19th. But obviously we still have a lot of people to pit, including the lead, well, not the lead battle, but the podium battle, I shall say, as they get checked up by a lapped car. That was Philip Howe coming through Tamburello. He just came out of the pits in front of the two of them and has severely checked up Joseph DeJesus there. So he's not angry and not very happy as you can see.
That's how he's going to tell him, I'm not happy with you. Keep an eye on your relative. What are you doing? And Lee Partridge isn't going to be happy with that either, as he gets sent off the racing line. So, yeah, he's made his pit stop, and the leaders haven't. There's still another half a lap or so you've got to account for to have fallen a lap down at this point. It has really, really helped the Dance Mania, as Cam Dance has pulled a second and a half, maybe even a little more than that, on second and third. He'd love to catch them by around about the time of the pit stops, because that would mean he could see a podium in his future. Stuart Crawford's 4 wide on the pit straight. The inevitable is going to happen. The inevitable happens. Ryan Jones in the middle there. Sean McKenzie involved as well. I just saw that happen in the corner of my eye. I saw them 4 wide coming towards Tamburello, and I knew to put my popcorn in the microwave.
Yeah, it's the track's wide enough for 4 wide, but these obviously it's a problem with a lot of open wheels cars, but I feel like these cars especially, the wheels are so open. There's no barge boards or anything in these cars, and you get a little bit of contact, as we'll see again in nice super slow-mo. Ryan Jones trying to avoid car right, but there's car left and they make contact. Thankfully, it was just the 2 of them instead of the 4 of them, but even still, that's really unfortunate. I'm sure that everyone else in that battle pack is going to be going and buying a lottery ticket tomorrow morning, because they owe one now, because that was extremely close.
Yeah, this is Crawford, who is driver's right, and his teammate and Ryan Jones from the middle come together and slot in right behind him and into the wall there as well. You know, it was 3 wide, and someone decided to make it 4 wide, and it didn't end well. Here's Lee Partridge on the lane, so from that second and third place battle, he's decided to take his compulsory pit stop with 5 to go. And as you can see, busy on the pit lane with a bunch of other cars as well. The only drivers yet to pit now is Chaz Mostert going long at the lead. Joseph DeJesus continuing on in second. Cam Dance now up into third. And then Kirk Broadhurst, Jake Kostecki, Nathan Verney, and Rick Berger and Stephen Black. Here's Michael Skurlock. For a long time, he's been the best placed driver to have cleared their compulsory pit stop. He's got a bit of a case of the nods going on there. But where is he going to be compared to other drivers rejoining? Some are coming out the pit lane in front of him, like Mikey Harland with a pretty slick stop. I was expecting to see Lee Partridge in front of him, but he might have been speeding on pit lane. He's only just letting go now. I think he was speeding on the pit entry.
Yeah, I'm just trying to run that back and see if I can, because he was stationary for a very, very long time. And hopefully I can catch that, but no.
40 seconds too long, and that would typically tell you it was either speeding on pit lane or an unsafe pit entry. Whichever it was, it adds 40 seconds to your pit stop, so you don't want to do it. And there is no pit lane speed limiter in these cars. You've got to keep an eye on the gauges and make sure that you are on the correct side of the speed limit. So that has dropped him out of contention for a podium, unfortunately. Very, very costly pit stop. 8 of 12. It's a good battle here. Rejoining into the race, Jeremy Bush, Simon Clayson and Reece Gardner all together. And they are in front of Ryan Howe, who's going to have his tyres up to temperature. 3 cars with cold tyres in front of him. You probably want to pick them off on this lap, but if it was 1 car, easily done. Now that it's 3, probably a bit of a mission. And Clayson, it looks like, is going to have a look at Bush. And there is Reece Gardner in the world's fastest crayon, backing out, trying to take it single file through Variante Alta.
Yeah, it's as we saw with Kostecki earlier, too wide is usually not a good idea. It's probably manageable through there if you're cautious, but you really have to be very obvious that you want to make it too wide, because it does narrow up very quickly, and those curves launch the car so high it's a bit difficult to turn. Reece Gardner wasting no time trying to get that move on. Might have a compromised run here down the main straight as they go up towards the kink of turn 19, but he does have the draft in front, so it's not quite done yet.
And Ryan Howe is going to actually slipstream off him, appearing to the left-hand side of screen, Ryan Howe. But as he pulls out to the left, it leaves Reece Gardner in the slipstream with Jeremy Bush out front. So Gardner is going to hold on to that 12th place that he's just gained for himself. Again, one of those drivers without a qualifying time. He's done his pit stop. He's up into 12th. He's fighting for 11th. So he's already 12 positions gained in this race, and it's a good little battle forming up between himself and Howe and Bush as well.
Yeah, side by side again into the Villeneuve chicane. If this was any other series, we'd call them delusional, but it's more than doable in these cars. So you see cars spinning in the background. Who was that? That was...
Clayson got a bit out of sorts there. They were just ambushing him through that section of track. He spun around, just nudged the wall, but is going to get going. Now, here's some drivers who haven't pitted yet. Jake Kostecki and Kirk Broadhurst. Scored 4th and 5th. Might be somewhere around the fringes of the top 10 once they make their pit stops. That's about where Kostecki was before we saw some of those other drivers pit from the front, which is what's happening right now. Chaz Mostert, the race leader. 2 pole positions today. He's led every lap of race number 2. He is on pit lane now with DeJesus in there as well. But Cam Dance sees that, and he's going to carry on. He might be able to overcut these guys if this is a great lap for Dance, followed by a quick pit stop. Broadhurst still going on, but Jake Kostecki on the lane. So just 4 drivers yet to pit, and some of your leaders, literally your race leader, are on the pit lane now with 3 to go.
I'm wondering if Cam is thinking, all right, they're in with 3 laps to go. They have to wait for their tyres to warm up. Mine are already warm. If I can make the most of my warm tyres and the most of the cold tyre, run the cold tyre the least amount of time, then that could give him an advantage towards the end of the race, because he was about 8 seconds behind Chaz Mostert at the end of like the lap before Chaz pitted. So if he can make up that big difference, I don't know if it's possible, but if he can and he has less time running on the cold tyres, then that could be a massive overcut for Dance. But of course, De Jesus following Chaz in is not a bad call either. He does come out in front of a little bit of traffic behind him. That is No, that's not. That's Jake Kostecki we're watching, sorry. He is all on his own, so that's not a bad place to be either. He's in front of that pack with Jake Kostecki, Nathan Verney, and... Sorry, Jake Kostecki. Michael Skurlock is the one I was looking for, and Mikey Harlan going through the Villeneuve chicane now.
Chaz Mostert, super quick stop, around 15 seconds or so, while everyone else seems to be averaging around 17 or 18. So, I don't know. His crew are doing a good job for him, and that's going to help him try to hold on to the lead, and makes it an even tougher task for Cam Dance to overcut him or even get close. What he does have, though, is Nathan Verney right behind him, who hasn't stopped yet. So, Verney maybe just trying to pick up the slipstream off someone who he knows is quick. Here's Dance onto the lane, looking for the pit stop of his life. Got to try to find his pit crew. We're going to be somewhere in the middle, remembering that Dance started from 20th, and the pit stall positions are given by the qualifying order. Chaz has got the one all the way at the far end of the lane. Driver at the back of the grid would have one right on the way in. Dance is in the middle, and he's got the tyre change going on right now. Kirk Broadhurst is also in, which means Nathan Verney is the only other driver yet to pit, and you can see from behind Chaz Mostert. He peels into the lane. Chaz Mostert at speed on the racing line. Well, service is only just done for Cam Dance. Mostert is going to come around back into the lead of the race. And Jesus not far behind there as well, but this could be close for second and third. Cam's going to start getting up to speed now. Jesus, slowish stop, quite a little way behind, but with the warmer tyres already at speed, might be able to catch Dance for second. All pit stops cleared, and your top three is Mostert, Dance, Jesus.
It was a very, very good in-lap by Cameron Dance. I think one of my more memorable quotes from Michael Schumacher is make your fastest, well, I'll reference it because I don't know it word for word, but your in-lap has to be your fastest lap as well as your out-lap. And that in-lap by Cam Dance was absolutely phenomenal. Just absolutely catapulting over Joseph De Jesus for second place. And it's a 1.5 second gap near about on 1 second. So Chaz 7 seconds up the road. That's pretty much race done as far as most people would concern. Touch wood. But Cam Dance with a very, very good in lap is just hoping for a good out lap on those cold tyres to absolutely maximize his stop.
So Chaz Mostert, what a ripping little lead he's got now after all these pit stops, more than 8 seconds. It might close up between second and third, but then at fourth place, this is where it's getting pretty interesting as well. Kirk Broadhurst has also had a really, really good stop. He's come out in front of this pack with cold tyres. Kostecki and Skurlock and Mikey Harlan are trying to eat him alive while he's trying to hold on to fourth place. The longer it goes on, the more the temperature starts to build into his tyres. Towards Variante Alta, he's trying to put on a defensive line, and he's then going to have a compromised run in. They are still just all stacked up behind him in this battle for fourth place.
Yeah, I think Kostecki learnt from his contact with Lee Partridge a couple of laps ago. Maybe not a good idea to try and send it too wide through there. We get Barney waving that white flag, 1 to go this time by for Chaz Mostert. Barney, obviously, if you didn't know, is an ex-professional baseball pitcher. That's why he's got such a good flag waving arm. But he will show the drivers the white light this time by as we focus on this battle for fourth place.
So it's Mostert's to walk home. It's De Jesus to try to close up into the slipstream of Dance while he's still vulnerable. And at fourth place, it's Kirk Broadhurst to try to play them off each other behind him. But huge slipstream, huge overspeed for Kostecki. Has his nose in front, around the outside towards the late braking zone into Tamburello. Here comes Skurlock trying to follow through as well. Gets a little bit of contact. Broadhurst, Skurlock and Harland all skittle, and that is going to let Kostecki rip away in fourth place. Reese Gardner's going to try to come around here and pick up the pieces as well on the final lap. And Jesus has gotten within a second of Cam Dance. Oh, Dance has got a problem. No, he's just defending, weaving very aggressively, but he has no speed compared to Jesus. Does he have a slowdown or does he have no fuel?
I'm not sure. I went back and I didn't see anything worth a slowdown, but Cam did get some of the gravel at the exit of Villeneuve, so maybe a chicane from the first. A slowdown from the first part of Villeneuve. I'm not.
Well, neither of them are
100%
going to
sure,
catch Chaz
but-
Mostert at this rate either. So, in their battle for second and third, this might just be Dance positioning himself to try to get that run off the end of Ravazza as well. I don't know if he's thinking super speedway style, if he's thinking, coming from third to pick up some positions. He's done a pass at Daytona, for example, where you don't want to be the lead driver as you come into that bus stop chicane. We're going to see what he can do in this battle for second place. The lead for Chaz Mostert almost out to 10 seconds. So there's no way these guys are worrying about anything but their battle for second. On the defensive for De Jesus, not trying to come around the outside just yet for Cam Dance, trying to set up for a good run off the second Ravazza. He's positioned just perfectly. He's right where you need to be, but so is Chaz Mostert, because he's going to take the checkered flag to clean sweep 2 rounds in a row in Aussie Car Formula V, maybe bring himself back into the championship. Get your cameras ready for second place. Cam Dance with a run, trying to take second place away, and I think he will, by the hair on his head, just to sneak second place between the line and the checkered flag. In second, for fourth place though, Kirk Broadhurst is trying to hold off Reese Gardner. Is he going to be able to do that? A second photo finish in as many positions. Gardner steals it away from Broadhurst with Mikey Harland right behind him.
This is why we love these cars. There's no race is not done yet. We've had a spin. That was Simon Clayson again having a really
out wide off the
extra.
second Ravazza, picked up a bunch of gravel, got it loose, and you can see the positions. This is going to cost him. Skurlock comes through. Not sure if Howe is for position. And another driver, one of the Aussie Car Racing teams is going to come through, and you can see the frustration with that from Clayson. The minute he crosses that timing line, finds the nearest barrier, the nearest wall to bang his head against, because he made a little mistake right at the end that cost him some positions, a mistake he didn't need to make. Now, some of the last drivers coming to catch the checkered flag. We've got Heinrich and Williams.
Yeah, not quite close enough for the draft this time by Mick Taylor, bringing up the tail end of the finishes. Paul Ward is just coming out of Ravazza 2 now. I think he is the last car. Well, last car's
car
finished
on the
now.
lead lap could be Stephen Black as well. But you can lock in the results here at the front of the field. Another win for Chaz Mostert. 2 poles, 2 wins. Very happy hunting at Imola. Cam Dance, the strategy off Ravazza on the final lap to steal second place in a photo finish from championship leader Joseph De Jesus. And then Jake Kostecki, Reese Gardner, Kirk Broadhurst, Mikey Harland, Michael Skurlock, Ryan Howe, and Aaron Freund. Then Jeremy Bush, Aaron Quintini, Stuart Crawford, Stafford Marsland, Ray Oliver, Nathan Verney, Vic Bentveltzen, Lee Partridge, Simon Clayson, frustratingly losing out a bunch of positions right at the end there, and let us know what he thought about that and how he felt. And Matthew Harriott rounds out the top half of the field.
Chris Noble starts the second lot of 20 after his contact with Blake Kostecki. Sorry. Jake Kostecki.
Oh, there's so many Kosteckis out there. One of them's got to be called Blake.
Yeah, I'll get it right eventually. My apologies. Rick Berger, Ira Felberg, 23rd, Callum Heinrich, Leon Williams, Mick Taylor, Matthew Joy, and Steve Black and Paul Ward, the last cars on the lead lap, followed by Philip Howe in 30th, Matthew Guintini, Max Donnelly, Sean McKenzie, Ryan Jones after his contact heading into Tamburello, Sean Doyle, Theo Taylor, and Joshua Burton all DNFing.
Oh, indeed. What an interesting race, no doubt. I would pick my grandstand seat near that finish line because many a drag race we saw be very, very close, including for second and third on the final lap where Cam Dance positioned himself just right, but neither of them were close enough to our clean sweep round winner. 2 poles, 2 wins. Chaz Mostert, I don't know what else you want. Did you get the fastest lap?
I'm not too sure, to be honest. Yeah, look, obviously a great night racing. I think I was same place as last week. The same, lucky to be in the lead and put a good quality together. And then, yeah, just got that little gap, which saved me in both races.
Yeah, indeed. Big field, big slipstream down the pit straight here. You'd have thought there'd be more drivers closer to make you worry, but somehow fighting for second place is addictive, and they let you scurry away with it.
Yeah, it's obviously probably the toughest track that I've done in a Formula V to be fast around. I think that's why there was a bit more field spread. But yeah, did some laps practice the last couple of days for a bit of fun, and really enjoyed racing the car. And yeah, I think you could probably be 1.2 seconds off the fast guys around there, and if you just follow them around, you'll get that easy in a tow around that track. So it's yeah, I was just lucky to get a break, and I thought they were going to tow back up to me, but yeah, they obviously fought a little bit too hard.
Toughest corner around here, and why?
Oh, I think the last chicane, I think, is probably the toughest. I think you come up to it and you break the car, and then if you either get an off track and you went way too hard, or you come out the other side clean and you go, oh, maybe I could have went harder through it. So it's pretty tricky.
Well, 3 weeks in a row, I think we've been here to say congratulations on a good win. Ryan Jones says every time you show up, he doesn't do well. So are you going to keep showing up, please, to the remaining 2 rounds?
Well, I'm not too sure. I'll probably have to beg OZICAR to move the session forward 10 minutes because or we probably won't be able to do it further on because we've got some further commitments with some supercar stuff coming on next Wednesday. So if we can move the time slot forward just 10 minutes, I reckon you'll keep us supercar drivers racing this before we jump into a supercar session at around 8:30.
You're not asking for much, and you drive a hard bargain. We'll see. We'll see. Not that it's within my control at all to say anything about anyone you want to thank. I mean, considering you keep putting in some strong performances here.
Yeah, I just want to thank Woodstock Bourbon for supporting me through these hard times in lockdown. Not that I'm racing on it, but it's nice to get a win tonight, and then I'll go sit on the couch after this now, get my breath back, and enjoy a nice Woodstock Bourbon. So yeah, and obviously racing Cam and racing Joseph, and even Jake in there. Those guys are super quick and keep you honest each week. So I'm not sure what happened to Joseph in that first race. I thought he was going to pit me on the line, but he must have got a slowdown or something. But always just enjoy racing these guys because they keep you honest.
Well, the action in the Formula V's keeps us breathless here in the commentary booth, so I'm sure it's just as tough driving. You deserve the to kick your feet up and catch your breath. So congratulations once again. We're going to need to engrave a broom with your name because it's a clean sweep of the race wins 2 rounds in a row, and it's a clean sweep of the poles as well.
Thanks. Yeah, I just keep chipping away. That's all I can do. We'll see what happens next week. So beg Ira to move it forward 10 or 15 minutes.
Start a petition in the OZICAR Discord, and there's probably some other people who'd join you on that cause.
Or they might just leave me hanging and they don't want me involved.
It depends if they want to see you win or not. And I wouldn't be surprised if half of them do and the other half don't. That's competition for you.
I reckon your mate Ryan might put a petition out there to keep it at the same time.
Well, we'll see. And next week, we'll know whether you're racing with us or not. But you can definitely hang your head high every time you've raced with us. You've just raised the bar each time. And thanks.
Cheers, guys. Thanks.
And Cam Dance from 20th on the grid to steal second place away between the final corner and the checkered flag is with Brad.
Cam, that was a very, very, very enjoyable drive to watch. That is not easy by any feats, especially around a track like Imola. We know it can be so hard to pass, but Joseph kept me honest at the end. And was that you went very slow through Tosa, I noticed, and we were wondering, was that intentional? Did you get a slowdown, or was that to try and do exactly what you did and pip him right at the line?
No, that was definitely not intentional. I ended up running a little bit wide, which I'm a little bit gutted about because I would have got the bonus points for 0 incidents. But yeah, just got to slow down after running a little bit wide there, and as a result, I had to try and back it up and get rid of the slowdown. And as fate would have it, it ended up actually providing the perfect opportunity to get past Joseph coming to the lines. So it was going to be interesting because I did wonder if he was maybe going to be able to draft me on the way to the line if roles were reversed and I kept on going. But yeah, it was good. Yeah, either way, good result. Race one, probably not too ideal for what should have really happened. We should have been up with Joseph and Chaz, but it is what it is, and still consistent point scores at the end of the day.
That's exactly right. We know how close this championship can be and is at the moment at the halfway point. Qualifying for race 2, we saw a lot of people have issues. Was it really difficult to get that lap, or was it just a really little mistake that meant that you didn't get your lap in?
Yeah, not entirely sure. I think I just didn't quite start my lap early enough or get up to speed early enough. I think that was just a matter of what it was. I was actually going to be on for a pretty good lap actually, and probably put myself in at least probably the top 3. I think based on what the delta was showing. But yeah, it is what it is. I mean, just worked with what I had starting all the way down 20th. It was a little bit chaotic in the first lap or so, but made it work at the end of the day. I did wonder if I was maybe going to not quite be able to get up to Joseph and Jake and those sort of guys as the race went on and where I was starting, but everything sort of played in our favor, and we had the pace and clean air to be able to get it, close that gap down and do what we did, and also had a really, really good stop as well. So, yeah, it's really, really good race for us in the end, all things considered.
Well, there goes my next question. I was going to ask about your pit stop, but that was a very, very good in lap, and your lap times throughout the race were phenomenal. You're only 1/20th of a second, like 500ths of a second slower than Chaz Mostert was. Your times were insanely close. Do you reckon you could have taken the fight to him if you had qualified even in the top 10 rather than starting in 20th?
Hard to tell really because of the pace that Chaz had, but I want to say yes, but also not entirely sure. It's just one of those things that you don't know unless you think everything goes right and it went the way that it should have gone. But yeah, I mean, based on the way the gap was going and everything, it was either going to be really, really close or it was going to end up being in Chaz's favor. Not entirely sure what was going to happen if everything went to plan, but hey, here's what it is.
Well, you kept it clean and you got the result in the end, and I guess that's all that really matters, right? Is there anything that anyone that you would like to thank tonight?
Yeah, just first of all, shout out to the boys at TechSense Fitstone Motorsport, as always, and our partners, TechSense Sensors, Renville Harnesses, Demon Tweaks, Fight CRC, Majors Garage, Sim3D, you guys for the awesome broadcast, Ira for the awesome series, all the boys for the awesome racing, and yeah, we'll see what happens at Nürburgring next week.
Yes, we will. It's getting very spicy in the championship, and we can't wait to see what happens.
Yeah, cheers, boys.
There we go. First and second from the feature race tonight at Imola in OZICAR Formula Vee. Both of them, I think, pretty happy with their performances, all things considered, and that championship is one we're going to keep our eyes on. Your points leader finishing both races in the top 5, but not being able to stop a dominant Chaz Mostert. This is where we are next week, 7:30 p.m. Yeah, no, probably lock that one in. Who knows? Round 5 at the Nürburgring for the 50-minute endurance race on the GP circuit. That one is going to be very, very interesting again. Plenty of slipstreaming opportunity around that Grand Prix layout. And, of course, the pit strategy to factor into it all as well. Let's hope we can get another big grid of Aussie car Formula V's going for that one next Wednesday night on SimSpeed TV. I've been David Haynes. I've been joined by Brad Wingard. Jay Kennedy has been our producer. Thank you so much for joining us on SimSpeed TV. Thank you to all the supporters of OZICAR as well. We'll see you tomorrow night for Skip Barber and next week for Formula V at the Nürburgring.
This is fantastic. This is GT racing right now.
He's got traction, he's going around the outside of both of them! Maloney!
Oh, he's taken Anderson. Anderson's up to here. Oh my God!
guys I want to make their way through the field very quickly. Oh, here we go. Oh no, that's massive. This is it. This is over. I can't believe this. Oh my God.